Go, go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of Wellbeing Wednesday. My name is Cynthia Marnie, and I'm one of your hosts, together with Louise Thompson, who will introduce herself in a minute. And today we would love to welcome a very special guest, Dr. Jo Newton, who is going to share with us a bit about her wellbeing journey. So that it'll be a really interesting conversation. As many of you know who do tune in regularly to Wellbeing Wednesday, Louise and I started this initiative back at the start of lockdown because we thought that it would be really good to get people together, men, women, rural, regional, urban, wherever, remote for you, Donna, and just access the amazing women in our networks about their wellbeing wisdom. And it's really interesting that there's been some research done by Paige Williams, one of our guest speakers in past weeks, and they found that it probably isn't a surprise, but rural and regional families have actually found it a lot easier to cope generally with this whole lockdown COVID situation than urban families. Probably due to the fact that many of them do lead a more sort of, isolated life than people in urban areas. And that's one of the reasons we thought there would be so much wisdom to learn from women in our communities about well-being, particularly to support each other over this time. Now, I live in Melbourne. I'm from Benalla. I sort of call both home, but I'm in Melbourne at the moment, and I'm in Darebin. And we're one of the hotspots. So I actually this week found myself feeling a bit angry and a bit really quite unsettled, because there's a bit of a, we've been told we probably shouldn't leave our suburb and go. We're sort of facing maybe a lockdown again. And I was really surprised at my reaction, that I felt really, I did feel angry and like I said, unsettled. So, through this is going to be around for a long time, this situation that we're in, and we're all going to be traveling at different paces through the journey. So it's really great to be able to have different perspectives like the one Jo's going to share with us today. So I'm a coach, facilitator, do a lot in high performance, looking at how we can be our best selves and bring that to our own lives, but also the teams that we work in and the organisations we work in. So welcome everyone. Louise, over to you for a little introduction.
Cynthia, I'll keep it little. A way of explanation of what I do. Last week I facilitated a 2-day workshop for a group of women. It's called the Female Factor, helping these women kind of decide what to do next in their leadership career. And at the end of the 2 days, what was fascinating was these group of women, they loved the whole experience because they all admitted that they were introverts, and that they found that working from home and being able to participate and learn and time out to plan and think, they were on fire. I could not believe how well they enjoyed and how well they participated. So there's been some great learning from that unique experience. But the fact that half of our world's population who are introverts, this COVID's had a big silver lining for them. And they felt very connected in their own home world. Hello to all the frequent flyers that are out there, as Cynthia and I like to refer to you. But it looks as if we've got quite a few newbies, Cynthia, who have joined today.
We do, and that's because Jo is she's a great networker. She's been part of so many different initiatives over her shortish career so far. So we've got quite a few people from the different networks that she's part of joining today. So welcome to you all. Jo, you recently won were presented with an Order of Australia medal. So what an amazing achievement. Congratulations and welcome today. Would you like to just share with us a little bit about how that eventuated, what it was for?
Thanks very much for having me today, Cynthia and Louise. I received my OAM for services to agriculture that encompass my advocacy, my volunteering, and also my career or day job as a research scientist.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've kind of gone full circle because my journey into all things agriculture started here in Melbourne with a special kind of high school romance. I went to Tintern Grammar and it had an on-campus farm. And that farm sparked a love of sheep and wool. And that interest in sheep industry, coupled with my aptitude for science, led me to decide that an agricultural science degree was where I wanted to go after I finished uni.
How was that taken at school, Jo? That career choice?
My careers advisor told me I was too smart to study agriculture. But my agricultural teachers were very supportive and helped me do a certificate to in agriculture via distance learning while I was in year 9 and 10, and family friends helped me make me aware of different universities where I could pursue that degree. So when I went to look at the University of New England, which is in Armidale, New South Wales, to me, it just made sense that if I was going to study agriculture, that I moved to rural and regional Australia to do so. And the 24 weeks of prac work as a part of the degree were like, it's a really big appeal to someone like me that didn't have that background of growing up in rural and regional Australia or on a farm. So I spent 7.5 years at UNE because I did a Bachelor of Rural Science with honours. And then I stuck around to do a PhD where I studied teenage pregnancy in sheep. Look, that rolls off the tongue a lot better than saying I looked at genetic and environmental factors influencing yearling reproductive performance. But what was so special about studying in Armidale was the opportunity to be a part of the community, that university community through different clubs and societies, through the wider agricultural community, through organisations like New South Wales Farmers, through volunteering agricultural shows, and the professional development opportunities that I was exposed to as well. So by the time I finished my undergrad and postgrad studies, I'd had the opportunity to gain a whole different range of experiences in the practical space, and also in some of those sort of professional and personal development skills that you're not taught in a classroom. And this collective combination helped me to sort of find my niche in this applied research space where we focus on science that delivers tangible benefits for farmers, and also in the advocacy and support of young people. So that brings me to today. In my day job, I work as a research scientist in genetics for Agriculture Victoria, and I'm part of the computational biology group. So we focus on, or my research focus is on, how different advances in animal breeding and genetics can deliver tangible benefits for farmers. So an example of this, when I worked on the Improving Herds project, I spent 3 years looking at how the decisions farmers were making about what bulls they were using, what cows were being selected as replacements, whether they were doing herd testing, which is monthly milk sampling of the cows, and how using DNA testing impacted on farm bottom line. But then for me, the other hat that I wear that I'm just as proud of is as someone who advocates for and supports young people. Back in 2013, I had the opportunity to do some life-changing training through Pitch You in Agriculture's Young Farming Champions program.
Yeah. And that's Lynn Strong was the coordinator. He was the coordinator of that. An amazing woman.
Yes, definitely. That program equipped me with skills that aren't taught at university. It gave me the confidence to start sharing my story, and the ongoing support from my fellow young farming champions and alumni and the mentors has helped me find the confidence to, step up and take on more leadership positions. So now I'm really proud to be part of the Young Farming Champions team at Pitch You in Agriculture, where we're collectively working towards the sustainability of picture you in agriculture and being able to continue to build the capacity of other young people so that they can in turn support the well-being of their communities.
That is amazing, Jo. And what a great initiative of Tintern to have the farm and opening up this career path and this amazing, agriculture is amazing, being an ag scientist myself, and having done it because there were just so many opportunities and so many wide and varied places that not geographic places, but workplaces you could end up, journalism, sociology, genetics, science, working as an agronomist, like just so many amazing opportunities. So really good to see where you've ended up. And so tell me, you've become, you were this advocate, you've got out there. How does that tapping into I guess finding your voice, how's that impacted on your well-being? What does well-being mean for you, for a start, and how has connecting and stepping up and challenging yourself, how's that impacted your well-being?
I think my perception of what well-being has changed a lot over, say, the last 10 years or so. You know, if you'd asked me when I was at uni, I was like, yeah, it's the balance between work, play, family, and health. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of realized we actually need to think about the different facets of what make up our health. And I think having a balance is a bit of an illusion. And we acknowledge that at different stages in our lives, our attention is going to be more fully drawn to different areas. And the trick is just not to focus too much attention on one area to the exclusion of all others. So well-being is being self-aware of where you are expending your energy. And then the second part, I guess, when I first realized that people were looking up to me as a role model and leader, I was quite taken back. I think I was in my early 20s and I was demonstrating for first year biology when I realized that was how students only a couple of years younger than me were perceiving me. And I think for me, it's been quite a journey to own that title of being a leader and feel confident to step into that into that area. And when I looked at leaders and role models around me that I admired and looked up to, many of these were people that weren't just showing the shiny side. They were acknowledging some of, the challenges and other sides of leadership. And so to me, my mindset now is that authentic style of leadership where you don't just show the shiny stuff is the kind of leader that I aspire to be able to put my full self forwards. And I think if I can do that, then that's also a good thing for my well-being.
Yeah, so the ability to be vulnerable and authentic, not having to hide, it really is beneficial to how you can then show up and operate in the world.
Definitely. I think I was on a little bit of a journey of sort of self-discovery and growth anyway, in learning how to be more open and be more vulnerable. I think most of my friends would say that I'm quite shy and reserved, particularly with people I don't know. But then for me, being diagnosed with bowel cancer last year, it hasn't changed that journey, that growth that I was trying to go on, but it's really accelerated the way that I try and communicate openly and be vulnerable with particularly my friends and family.
So thanks for mentioning that, Joan. Look, Louise and I feel very privileged to be speaking with you about this, because it is National Bowel Awareness Month, and this week in particular is can you just tell me what this week is?
Yeah, so this week is Never Too Young Awareness Week. So the whole week is highlighting the fact that whilst incidence of bowel cancer is decreasing in those over 50, it's actually increasing in young people under the age of 50, and nearly 1 in 10 cases in Australia are diagnosed in people under 50. And one of the challenges there is that more younger Australians are diagnosed with more advanced bowel cancer. So then the treatment options are more intense and invasive, and the survival rate is then not as great.
And so you're really passionate about, this is a new advocacy area of interest for you, of speaking about this to try to raise awareness in young people about the prevalence of bowel cancer for people in your demographic. So yeah, and we, like I said, we feel really privileged that you're speaking about this with us today and sharing part of your story and what you've learned about the challenges of that. And I guess, you know, like everything, there's sort of, in those tough times, there's gold, as well as, you know, the depths of what it is to be human. I think we in those tough times, we see both, don't we, the beauty and the pain of being human. So I just want to let you, Jo, just start us out however you would like to talk about it. Just tell us about your, you know, kind of what happened to you when you realized something was going on and how that unfolded.
Yeah, so at the end of 2018, I actually moved to Ireland to spend 6 months as a visiting scientist. I lived in a little rural town called Fermoy with 4,000 people. And it's called the Irish Agricultural and Research Development Authority, or CHUGAS for short. So I was there to spend 6 months learning what it was that Ireland does to get such good farmer engagement in their projects, and to look at the use of DNA-based tools in dairy, beef and sheep programs. And while I was there, I'd been having a bit of gut trouble. There'd been like a change in the regularity that I was going to the toilet. And then I started noticing like some blood and mucus, and I was bloated and I was tired. And I had some really bad abdominal pain one night, and that prompted me to go and see a GP. And I'm so grateful to this GP, because he listened to me and suggested that we do some blood tests, you know, see if I had celiac disease, maybe look for like Crohn's disease. And when they all came back normal, he said, look, I really think we should see if your insurer would do a colonoscopy, because this has been happening for a while and you're still meant to be here for 6 months, and we want to rule out IBS, ulcerative colitis. Like, he was thinking about some kind of gastrointestinal issue. And so I had that colonoscopy and they found a tumour. And of course it was the Wednesday before a long weekend. Or my exam was the day before a long weekend, the colonoscopy. So then I had to wait the extra period. But my new Irish friends and family rallied around me and didn't let me go to any of those appointments alone, spend time with my own thoughts. Don't know what the surgeon thought when he had 3 women under the age of 30, all with doctor in front of their name. An appointment. Pretty sure that would have been a first. But the end result was that I needed surgery, and the best place for that to happen was to come back to Australia. My mum's background is in nursing and health research. So while I was preparing to come back to Australia, she was on the ground here in Australia, sort of getting everything lined up so that I walked straight into appointments to get referrals. And at the end of May, I had a bowel resection. So they chopped out 17 centimeters of my large intestine or colon and took out 42 of the lymph nodes. And what the biopsy showed was that the cancer had started to spread into my lymph nodes. So that then meant that I needed to have 6 months of chemotherapy. Fortunately, I had time to do some fertility preservation. So kind of like the first stage of IVF, except instead of implanting the eggs back in, they just put them in the freezer because there was a risk that my treatment would make me infertile. And at the end of July, I started this 3 days a fortnight of chemo.
Wow.
And I finished that in January and into monitoring.
Wow. And I mean, how did you even comprehend what was going through your mind, this just, out of the blue thing? That did you have a history in your family or anything like that? Or
yeah, my grandfather passed away from bowel cancer when he was 60. I think in those first few weeks, I owe a lot to my friends and family that really rallied around me and kept me distracted. I got to celebrate my 30th birthday 3 times in 2 countries. There's some silver linings. And then not long after my surgery, part of the standard care in the hospital that I was at was that I would be visited by a social worker. And this social worker spoke to me about different, how are you going to support yourself financially? Where are you going to live? How are you sleeping? Do you want to talk to anyone? And I said yes, then and there. And I'd been struggling to sleep with everything that had been going on, not surprising. And I'm also quite sensitive to pretty much any painkiller that's not Panadol.
Right.
So, I think going to see this psychiatrist to help me process what had happened. And then the advice she gave me was, now's not the time to be worrying too much about like 2 or 3 years for now. Set yourself some mini goals and just focus on that. And so that was how I approached those 6 months of chemo. The goal was always just recovering and staying healthy and being ready for the next round so that I could continue my chemo without any delays.
And how did you, so managing yourself, being able to manage yourself, emotionally regulate was like a key part of your being able to go through the treatment and beyond?
Yeah, I know she's on here today, so I can say that when I was in hospital, Garima gave me a journal and encouraged me to start writing. So I started looking for a daily gratitude practice. So it doesn't happen every day, but amidst all of the uncertainty and everything else that was happening in my life, I could still find things to be grateful for. Maybe it was the fact it wasn't pissing down with rain, so I could go for a walk around the block instead of having to use the bike. Beautiful cards from friends and I had to spend a lot of time going in the car with mum to work, because at the time she worked at Melbourne Uni, next door to my hospital, going to hospital. And my friends helped me make that something to look forward to, because I'd schedule coffee dates, lunch dates, walks, visits to come to chemo with me, with my friends. So then all these trips to hospital became less about another trip to hospital and more about, great, today I get to, you know, have lunch with a colleague from work in their lunch break, or this person's been visiting from interstate for the weekend and they've taken a day off to be able to come and sit on a chemo ward with me. So having those, you know, little bright sparks amongst all of the challenges really, really helped me find that inner strength to keep plodding along.
And Jo, I'm reflecting on what you said earlier about about being a leader and being authentic and vulnerable, and that your friends would have said that you were a bit, maybe, what were the words that you used, reserved? Or how did it feel to then open yourself right up to people not, you know, being really with you on that, on this, in this really difficult time? What did that teach you? Or
it was really hard. For the first few months, it was really just my closer circle of friends that knew what was happening. And a couple of dear friends even took on the role of helping tell other people the news and keeping them updated, taking some of that pressure off me. But, you know, I guess the first step was when I started my blog and I said, look, I'd actually like you to come to chemo with me. It makes it easier to get in the car if I know I've got someone's smiling face to look forward to, and sort of starting with some of those more physical things that people could help me with, and whether that was dropping in for a meal or coming and getting me lunch because mum was out for meetings all day, and seeing the response and the level of support that I felt from making those physical requests. I think as time's gone on, and this is still definitely an area that I'm working on, it's gotten a bit easier to talk a little bit more about some of the other stuff. Because the 6 months since I finished chemo on the 1st of January, they've been a whole different kind of hard to the physical, coping with the physical side effects of chemo.
Yeah, so do you want to tell us a bit more about that? What changed and what the different kind of hard is?
Yeah, I think I'd spent, 6 months really just focusing on getting to the next couple of weeks, the next doctor's appointment, being healthy enough to have the next round of chemo. And then you get to the end and all of a sudden it's like your brain catches up with what your body's been doing for the last 6 months. And when I went to my GP, he described it as grieving. Grieving for, everything that's happened, all the changes that have happened, all the plans that I'd made and had to be readjusted. When you're a fiercely independent female who left home at 18 and suddenly your chemo's made you physically unable to go to the fridge because you're that cold sensitive, or asking your younger brothers to change the sheets on your bed because you've had a night sweat. That's a lot to get your head around.
And so how have you got your head around it? What have you been doing what's changed so you talked a lot about gratitude and the you know, the physical, getting people around you and speaking with the support people in your, when you were getting the chemo, and focusing in on those small steps. So how have you shifted your practice or how you're tackling things now?
So definitely I still see one of the psychologists at the Peter Mac regularly. And that's really important for me to have that regular touch point with her. I think Lisa spoke about it well last week when she was talking about that you know, your motivation can go up and down. So stuff like the journaling and the gratitude, they're still things that I practice. I'd been having a bit of trouble with sleeping again, so then that was a conversation to have with the psychologist, and lo and behold, nearly 2/3 of people struggle with sleep after cancer, and there's actually this whole book of different techniques that you can try for insomnia, and taking a really good look at what your sleep hygiene, so your bed, not just your bedtime routine, but your morning routine looks like. And I've started to share a little bit more on some of these challenges with my close circle, and even I'm on a return to work plan. So I'm only working part-time hours, and every month I touch base with HR and the manager about what's happening. And, you know, I've tried to be open with the side effects that I'm still experiencing, and, you know, talking about the fatigue in particular, which obviously poor sleep impacts on. And so letting people in a bit with what's happening has been helpful. And then when I let people in, it's also, I find it quite helpful to then ask those people to help keep me accountable.
And accountable in what sense?
So for me, like regular exercise was a big part of my life before I got sick. And there's a whole growing body of evidence on how beneficial exercise is for helping manage side effects of chemo, to keep patients healthy and reduce risk of chemo complications, and then improve survivorship. So I signed up for a fun run because I got told I needed to do more cardio. So on the weekend, I actually messaged one of my friends and I said, look, I know Melbourne Marathon's not until October, but can we set a date that's a little bit sooner, when I need to be able to run 5Ks?
Yep.
And, you know, talking about sort of some of the switching the brain off, having some of those, you know, the worries about cancer coming back, the worries about this, you know, side effects, and even some of the challenges of when I left home at 18, you know, living back home again at 30, now 31, to make sure that I was making time to unwind with like some yoga and meditation. I sort of let a girlfriend know about that, and we had a few little like online yoga and meditation dates together, and that helped me sort of reestablish a routine with that again. I think there's no like one magic answer, and I think it will be different for everyone what works and what helps. And, you know, stuff that I found super helpful a little while ago is not necessarily the case now. And I guess an example of that is I'm quite an introverted person and I really like my alone time. But when I was in the middle of chemo and like feeling really sick and unwell, some of those days when I was feeling the worst, I didn't actually want to be by myself. Even if it was just a family friend reading the paper in the living room while I was napping on the couch, I didn't want to be alone. Whereas now that I'm in recovery, my sort of need for space and privacy and my own downtime has become more important.
And Jo, so we've just got lots of comments about, you know, wow, thanks so much for sharing, and you're incredible, and you're being really generous to share all of this. So yeah, so thank you everyone for your comments. And Jo, what are you now looking forward to? What's on your horizon for things that you're looking forward to that really boost you up and give you energy? Yeah.
So I was really almost embarrassingly excited when the gyms were going to reopen. But because I'm still in that slightly higher risk group, I'm not actually going back to a normal gym. I'm going to train in a rehab facility with other cancer survivors, so it's smaller numbers, but that was in the short, like that was a goal that I was looking at all through lockdown. Like, yes, doing squats, holding a cookbook is like fine, but it'll be nice to do something outside of the house that's not a medical appointment. And then I guess thinking a bit like longer term, I'm looking forward to returning to full-time work, to moving out of home again, as much as I've, you know, really appreciated the opportunity to form a closer relationship with my mum and with my family. That's something that I'm really looking forward to. And after the last couple of months, I don't think I'll ever take the simple act of going to have coffee or meet friends for dinner as, you know,
Yes.
granted. You know, last year when I was immunocompromised and just didn't have the energy to drive myself anywhere, let alone sit at a table, to now feel like that and be told, actually, no, you COVID, we won't be doing that for a while. So yeah, that's definitely a goal that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that's terrific. And what about work? How has it been? Well, obviously it's a bit awkward because you can't really say, oh no, they haven't been supportive. But how important has that been to keep up that conversation with work, and the support? How important is it about the support that work offers you, that with your peace of mind, I guess? Yeah.
I think my oncologist thought I was a little bit crazy when I was mentioning about my intentions to continue doing a bit of work through treatment. You know, when we talk about well-being and sort of the things that fill our cup, I feel like I've found my why in my work. I have a job that I really, really enjoy and feel like, you know, our group has the opportunity to make a positive contribution to, you know, the farming community in rural and regional Australia. And my work was really supportive in adapting my role. So not so many workshops and going out to visit farms, being more computer-based, letting me work remotely, or from Melbourne Uni when I was in the city for appointments. Yeah, so that's been fantastic. And then, you know, once I finished treatment, when we started talking about scaling up my hours again, one of the conversations that I've really appreciated is their focus on not pushing me to get back to full-time hours too quickly, that I'm making sure, you know, it's HR saying, make sure you leave enough time and energy to do your exercise, to have some catch-ups with friends. And I feel really lucky that I have such a supportive employer with such good policies around supporting staff.
Yeah, I mean, it just must give you, like I said, it's that peace of mind to know that you've got a place, that you've and that they want you there, that they're just supporting you all the way. That must be.
Yeah, there's been some hard conversations as well. Like, I remember after my first, so I didn't do any work the week I had treatment, and then in my non-treatment week I'd do a bit of work. And so I remember the first time that I sat at my computer and then I spent like half an hour checking my emails, and I'd never been more excited about checking emails before. It was like, yes, I can do this. Who gets excited about checking their emails?
I do. Sure.
But, then I had to have, a conversation with my manager about some of my tasks to say, look, my brain capacity at the moment is just not such that I can be revising journal articles. I can't remember enough of what I'm reading in the literature to be able to like synthesize that information together into a discussion. So, I feel really grateful that I've had such a supportive employer, but I feel like there's had to be transparency on both sides to be able to develop a plan that worked for both of us.
Because you would have been educating them as well, wouldn't you? Because they probably haven't managed a staff member though necessarily on this journey. So there's sort of you're both learning together, aren't you, about how to manage it. And so good on you again for having the courage to have initiate those conversations and be open about what you're really going through.
I have to laugh though. Once I started treatment, because I was immunocompromised, I mainly worked from home because we have a big open plan office. And after I finished treatment, so my manager and I got used to meeting like this. And I'd, send an email through every fortnight saying like, this is what I've done this week. Here's where it's all saved. We reflected on how this was a good experience for her managing like a remote staff member. Next time something like this had to happen. And so, we're talking about starting to spend like 2 days a fortnight back in the office, and which was so lovely to see all my colleagues and be part of that lovely supportive work environment. And then suddenly everyone's working from home.
And your manager's like, I'm all over this. I've done this before. I know what to do. It works. That's really terrific, Jo. Now, I'm just conscious of time. We're at 1:45. So, Jo, what we like to do is, because there's so many lessons from what you've been through, so what are your top 3 tips for people on this call? But also, so that's actually, let's do that first, and then I've got to follow up. Top 3 well-being tips.
Yeah. Look, I know it's not one that we've spent much time on today, but, if exercise was a pill, every doctor would prescribe it and every patient would be asking for it. And so finding a form of physical activity that you enjoy doing enough to get out and do it, even when you're feeling a bit off, has been really important for me, and even more so now as a cancer patient and survivor. The biggest lesson I've learned on managing my well-being in the last 12 months is, the power of letting people in. Having a conversation about your mental health with a therapist is so, so important. But, having some of those conversations with your close support network, both professionally and personally, is super important. And then the final one is, self-awareness of what it is your body needs from you today versus next week versus tomorrow.
Yeah, very wise, because like you said, it just changes, doesn't it? So we just have to keep altering, dialing up, dialing down, adding new things in, and it's continually shifting for some of us, I think. And so, Jo, also, given that, with your message to other young people, is there anything that you wanted to say, given this week, to other young people out there?
Well, I think the message is to anyone, really, like in COVID, particularly in COVID times, if you've noticed a change in your body or in how you're feeling, don't delay in going to see a health professional about it. And if they don't give you a satisfying answer, don't be scared to ask to see another doctor at the same practice. And I guess in recognition of Bowel Cancer Awareness Week, I have to say that changes in how you poop are not normal.
Yep, absolutely. My mum had, she actually had collagenous colitis, which was a layer of collagen on the bowel, and it was really debilitating thing to manage. Took a long time to diagnose as well. So yes, it's really important to get checked, and they're invisible, aren't they? Those illnesses, they're not obvious to people. Have you got any comment on that, Jo? It's sort of an invisible illness thing.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I found interesting is a lot of people's perception of a cancer patient is that you lose your hair. Right? And actually there's hundreds of different kinds of chemo, so not everyone loses their hair. I cut mine very short because I lost about half of mine. So, I think I gained a new appreciation of the people that live with those chronic illnesses and invisible illnesses, because I got a lot of comments that, oh, you look so well. It's like, I don't feel that well. And I know that my hair doesn't look like it used to 5 months ago, or, so I think, I'm sure that all of the comments I got on how well I looked and how well I was doing were very well. They came from a place of love and support, but it was sometimes hard to hear. It's like, well, you won't see the part where, because I drove for 20 minutes and then sat in a chair without a back for an hour to have coffee, that by the end of the day, I'm going to ache from head to toe, and Mum will have to cook me dinner. Mum will have to clean up. Mum will have to bring me a cup of tea on the couch because I don't have enough energy to move from the couch. So I think it's really tough when how you feel isn't necessarily reflected in your physical appearance to the world.
Yeah, I really get that. Thank you. Thanks. So that's probably just a bit of advice for all of us. Is it kind of invalidating, Jo? Is that how did it feel invalidating, or what was the feeling around it, despite you knowing the good intention behind it?
Yeah, like I probably tried to focus on, it's a bit frustrating, but I tried to focus on reframing it into that. It's a sign that these people care about me. Same, like all of the beautiful messages, that are just, how are you? You want the honest answer? you want the essay of all of the side effects? Like, it's beautiful that you get these messages and that people are thinking about you. But sometimes I'd be like, how do you actually want me to answer this?
Yeah, it's really tricky, isn't it? It's so tricky to navigate. We're all blundering around, aren't we, in the world, just sort of knocking furniture over in the dark a lot. We're not meaning to. I think it's really it's really tough unless you've been through it yourself to kind of, you can never really appreciate what it's like until you've been through it, I think. So now, Louise, have you got any questions, or have we got any comments that would be handy to raise right now?
Sure. So when you talk about blogs and then essays, that relates to a question by Louise Scott, who asked you, Jo, is there a book there? Would you be writing a book? Experiences?
To be honest, it's not something that I have thought about. I started blogging for two reasons. One, it was an easy way to keep everyone up to date with what was happening. And secondly, you know, when you're the youngest person in the treatment room, when every nurse says, oh, are you here with your mum? Or, you know, thinking that you're the support person, that, you know, that can be challenging. And I found it really helpful being able to connect with other young adult cancer patients and survivors online. And I read some of their blogs and stories, and I thought, well, if I make this public, instead of just being updates for my friends and family, maybe it can also be something that other young cancer patients find helpful.
And so, Jo, is that public now?
Yeah, the blog is public. Anyone can click on the link, and
we'll put that link in our, we send out, as most of, or for people who are new, you're on our list now. So you're going to get an email every Friday to tell you who's going to be our next Wellbeing Wednesday guest, and with any resources that might have got brought up in the previous week. So we'll get that from you, Jo, and put that in our newsletter. So you'll get a copy of that.
Now, one of our frequent flyers, Nosh Dabari, has asked, you know, this, I mean, you can see it in your face where it's been commented about, you know, some colour back in your cheeks, Jo. You know, what's your source of motivation? How do you keep going?
I think I take a multifaceted approach to motivation. For something like exercise, where I know my like ebbs and where I'm always going to ebb and flow, one of the things that really keeps me accountable is paying someone to keep me accountable. I'll be honest. It's so before I got sick, I worked with a trainer in a women's only gym. When I moved to Ireland, and 2 months down the track, realized I'd gotten pretty slack with getting up to go to the gym, I became an online client of my trainer back in Australia. And then since my diagnosis, I've worked with an exercise physiologist that specializes in working with cancer patients. And I guess my motivation more generally, you know, having that set, you know, that, you know, people call it, you're finding your why or your sense of purpose. And I realized that that's something that I found at quite a young age, but I hadn't really identified as it being my sense of why until I read, and I made sure I had it by the desk, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which is a book that a friend gave me after learning of my diagnosis. So having that strong sense of why helps me with my motivation. And when I need that extra little bit, it's letting those around me know what those goals are and how they could help keep me accountable, whether that's checking in to see am I exercising, or do we want to do a group yoga class or meditation online.
Right.
I don't think anyone can be 100% motivated all the time. I think it's human to have those ebbs and flows.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you referenced back to Lisa last week, you know, it's that kind of roller coaster. Now, who has asked this? So there was a question from, I'm going to guess it's Sue. I can't see the full name. How do you want people to act or behave around you? This person has a friend with cancer and they don't want others to know because they don't want to have them feel sorry for them. What advice would you give to then give on to that person?
Yeah, I think everyone's experience of being a cancer patient is different. So I think it would be hard for me to give advice, especially knowing that that friend has chosen not to be public. But I guess, you know, sometimes when I caught up with my friends, you know, I wanted to talk about what was happening. Other times, like, I wanted to hear about the bad Tinder dates, the way you've been eating dinner, like what's happening in your life. Like, just because I've got big challenges in my life, it doesn't mean that I don't want to hear about the normal newsy things that we would share with one another as friends. So I guess my suggestion would be to make, you know, those conversations that you're having with a friend or loved one who is a cancer patient don't just have to be about what they're going through at that point in time.
And that was for Susie Jacobs who asked that. Yeah, it's really important, isn't it, that even just to check in with what do you want to talk about today, because, you know, we're all different, aren't we, depending on what's going on. Yeah, it's good to ask before launching into what you think you should talk about.
Can I ask one question?
Okay, I'll let you.
Jo, were you surprised? Did people, some people step forward and some people step back? Did that surprise you about who emerged or disappeared at different times, or?
A little bit. I think, you know, I left Melbourne when I was 18 and I only moved back in 2015, and then I moved to a very different part of the city. So I had, I guess, a lot of younger friendships. So it was perhaps interesting seeing how some of the dynamics in those changed over the last year and a bit. Whereas a lot of my longer term friends, yeah, I didn't really have a doubt that they would be there for me.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think sometimes we, you know, at different times, some people are uncomfortable with illness and they can't help it. They might disappear during the illness, but then they might emerge later, and then other people who you don't know very well will step forward, and you like really overwhelmed by generosity of someone you don't know very well, but they really, yeah, it's amazing, the step up.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm super grateful to the friends that stepped up. And for me, one of the things that was really beautiful was having multiple friends from my time in New South Wales come down to Melbourne to support me, to like come to chemo, to like help look after me after treatments, and, you know, adjust their plans to fit in with my limitations. Like that was really special.
Fantastic. Well, I'm just conscious of time, and so Claire's just said, thanks, Jo. The blog posts I read were very inspiring. Thank you. And Donna said thanks, and Helen said thanks, and lots of people have said thanks. So, and again, sorry, Louise.
I just want to say, look what came in the mail today. Not today, this week.
Excellent.
I'm on the other side of 50, and this will be my third test, which have always been positive. The number of people, men and women that I know, that don't open the package, that would be my big lesson and reminder. I just remembered I had it on my whiteboard. Absolutely important.
Yep, no, very true. Now, Nosh has just reminded me, thank you, Nosh, you're awesome, we usually get a little photo, the three of us as well. So we'll just take a moment to get that one now. I'll just do an emoji. function, print screen. Okay, everyone look great. Okay, I think that might have worked. That's exciting. Oh, hang on. Oh no, I'm missing.
Change your screen.
I blocked myself out because I keep looking at myself. Show
Yeah. It's a good
yeah.
Zoom message.
Okay, sorry.
Are you ready, Cynthia?
I'm ready. I'm ready, everyone. Okay, function, print, print screen. I need my glasses. I do need my glasses. Sorry. How embarrassment. Function. There we go. All right. 1, 2, 3. Ha. Yes. Got it.
So, and just if, are you going to stop the recording? Or
I'm going to stop the recording in a moment. That's Lulu, Lulu's bottom. Sorry, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you before we close off. Thank you, Jo. We feel just so honoured to speak to you today. Amazing. I could speak to you forever because I'd love to speak to you more about leadership, and I'm still fascinated. I wrote down when you about owning the title of leader, and I would so love to explore that more. But yeah, I'd just like to say thank you so much, and it's really wonderful to see your style of leadership, you stepping forward, and we just wish you all the very best for the next exciting part of your life. And thank you.
Thank you so much for having me today, Cynthia and Louise. I think you're creating a really special community with these Wellbeing Wednesdays, and that's why I said yes, and why I felt that this was such a fitting environment to talk about my bowel cancer story with everyone for the first time.
Oh, we feel so privileged. So thank you. So next week we have Emma Aliff, who you know, Jo. So Emma's another person from Jo's network. So Lynn Strong, who's this awesome woman who does a lot with youth in agriculture. She gave us a couple of good people to speak to. So we've got Emma coming up next week, and we'll send you some more information about BASH. This recording will be posted on my website. So if you know someone who couldn't get here today, then please let them know, and you'll be getting a newsletter from us about next week's webinar. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to pause now and we'll continue our chat offline.